days to the second visit of the CAF inspection mission to Cameroon, the Prime Minister, head of government, visits some stadia here in the economic capital Douala to host the continental competition, but sidelining the private press here in the city of Douala raised a lot of eyebrows, as we are going to be telling you in this edition of the news. Also ahead, Cameroonian asylum seekers in Nigeria tell their breathtaking stories why they had to flee their homes, abandoning their property to a strange land. They are going to be speaking to a reporter on an exclusive interview that's going to be in the course of this newscast. And in the second part of this newscast as well, we are going to be talking about the Cameroon Business Forum that took place here in the economic capital Douala, chaired by the Prime Minister, head of government. We will be telling you how owners of small and medium-sized enterprises were complaining and denouncing failure by the government of Cameroon to boost small and medium-sized enterprises were complaining and denouncing failure by the government of Cameroon to boost their growth, though they constitute 95% of the business economy. Those are headlines. Stay with us. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. We thank you for joining us. What is the government hiding from the public concerning Cameroon's preparation to host the 2019 African Cup of Nations game? This question has been provoked by government's attitude of rejection towards private press, especially here in the economic capital Douala. It was clearly seen that the government is sidelining the private press during the PM's visit to some sports infrastructures today here in the economic capital Douala. Babila Jonathan has that story.
Private media reporters are barred from covering Prime Minister Philemon Yang's visit to some sporting infrastructures in Cameroon's economic capital Douala. Security forces deployed at the Bepanda Omispo Stadium and other sites mounted a stiff resistance against media men and women from the private press who attempted to take pictures of the Prime Minister's visit. Some were threatened and forced to go away even before the arrival of the Prime Minister. This has been attributed to the private media critical reports on preparations by Cameroon for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. Preparations marked by several shortcomings and delay reported by some private media outlets. And critics now ask the question, is government hiding the poor state of readiness of President Biya's country to host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations? In the meantime, a delegation of the Confederation of African Football will be in Cameroon for the second time. From the 19th to the 24th Federation of African Football will be in Cameroon for the second time from the 19th to the 24th of March 2018 to inspect infrastructures, to host encounters, players, team and other football officials and visitors during the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations.
And it should be noted that works at the Japoma Sports Complex here in the economic capital Douala, according to facts and figures, are just 30% gone, few months to the 2019 AFCON Games to be hosted by Cameroon. The contractors at the site have, however, assured that the project would be due before the continental competition in 2019. It was during today's assessment visit paid to the Japoma Sports Complex by the Prime Minister, head of government. Philemon Yang expressed satisfaction after visiting other sports facilities under construction and rehabilitation here in the economic capital Douala. The PM's inspection tour in Douala after that of Yaoundé and Garoua is ahead of the second CAF inspection mission to Cameroon, as I indicated, to run from the 19th to the 24th of March 2018. We continue with news here in the economic capital Douala. The management of the Hygiene and Sanitation Company, known in its French acronym as ISACAM, has promised to pay 1 month's salary of its personnel that went on rampage. That was yesterday here in the city of Douala. The dozens of garbage collectors at ISACAM went on strike that was early yesterday Monday to protest against unpaid salaries. They say that they have been for 3 months now without salaries. Let's have the details with Innocent Aze.
They are over 50 in number who decided to freeze engines of the ISACAM trucks to demand their close to 3 months unpaid salaries plus better working conditions. It is going at 3 moon. It is go for 3 moon. It is going at 3 moon. It is go for 3 moon. I don't feel like. Disgruntled garbage collectors say they find it difficult to solve their financial issues, though they contribute 3,000 francs in a monthly meeting of the SACAM workers. The managing director is regarded as crook by striking employees.
It's true. You say that Cameroonais, you know how that is smell, no? Yeah.
Even personnel delegates are not trusted, as according to the garbage collectors, are corrupt. They function at the detriment of those they are supposed to protect. While they gathered around the SACAM premises agitating, loyal workers steamed the engine of one of the garbage trucks to go working, but they were blocked. However, a meeting between the striking workers and the managing director takes place for resolutions to be reached.
Like I said earlier, after the meeting between the striking workers at SACAM and the management, after the meeting, the workers returned to work. That was this Tuesday, after the management promised to pay at least 1 month of the salary owed them in the coming days, and we of course will be keeping you updated as soon as you are informed. Some inhabitants of Lumwa in the Mongo division of Cameroon have been asked to pack out of their homes within 48 hours of face forceful eviction by authorities of their homes. Within 48 hours of face forceful eviction by authorities in the town. The exercise is going to be conducted by the senior divisional or the divisional officer for Olum, that is in view of the construction of a new bus station in the said municipality. The decision rather is that of the mayor of the said municipality. Let's have the details with Smart Njik and Gabriel.
It is very normal to meet with traffic congestion at Kaofusu, Mangie and Tombel respectively due to the haphazard parking of vehicles either to drop or pick up a passenger. The congestion at times has led to untold accidents because of no bus station in Lum. It is in this light that the Lum Council has embarked on demolition of houses and giving quick notices to those occupying illegal spaces as they intend to put up a befitting bus station. No development comes without pains. This is our meeting venue, left behind by our parents, and we have every document that permits us to be here. But the mayor doesn't want any understanding. Instead, he is giving us 48 hours to quit. We know that we can't stand against him, but we have our rights. While others watch at the exercise being done by the mayor of Lum Council, Kiategi Wambo, in contemplation of their next destination, some of the inhabitants say it is a welcome move to create a bus station, since there is too much of traffic along the road because of the haphazard parking of cars. The need for a motor park is important. Because of the haphazard parking of cars, the need for a motor park is important. With a majority of projects abandoned by some contractors, Lum inhabitants are now hoping that the dream of a bus station is going to be realized. For the mayor of Lum, Kiategi Wambo,
nous voulons comme ça essayer un peu de minimiser les accidents.
We want to minimize the rate of accidents that occur along the roadside. We have had several meetings and had informed everyone that the area wasn't for any sort of construction. It is also an opportunity for us to tell all those who have bought or constructed houses in the Loom Forest Reserve that they are doing so at their own risk. Everything being equal, the contractors of the new Loom bus station are expected to commence work by the end of the week.
And a plantation of marijuana discovered and destroyed by security forces in Fumban, Noon division of the Western region of Cameroon. The forces of law and order discovered the plantation located at Masaga after they were alerted. The cultivators, as Manjikan Gabriel tells us once again, the following report are at large. His report.
In the heart of a forest lies an Indian hemp plantation that is waiting for it to be harvested and sent to the market for it to be consumed. The task of capturing the exploiters of the Indian herbs, whether alive or dead, was that to be done by Captain Jabba Idrisu of the Fumban Gendarmerie Brigade. But 2 weeks later, no single soul was found at the site. To stop the onward transportation of the dangerous herbs from reaching the possible consumers, the state prosecutor, the gendarmerie commander, and his colleague took time on consumers. The state prosecutor, the gendarmerie commander, and his colleague took time off to destroy the plantation due to the tip-off that led to the discovery of the Indian herbs plantation. The head of the National Gendarmerie in Noon is urging the population to help the forces of law and order in the fight against criminality in the entire division.
And on to something else, we take you now to the northwest region of Cameroon to talk about the need for the population to collaborate with security forces. That has been one of the key messages dished out to the entire population of the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon during official ceremonies. The message was again re-echoed as the commander of the 51st Support Battalion for Kumbo in the Bui division of the northwest region of Cameroon was being installed into his functions. He was installed by the colonel under the auspices of the senior divisional officer for Bui, Emile Amo, during a ceremony that took place yesterday in that part of Cameroon. It should be noted that it was an opportunity for the senior divisional officer for Bui division as well as the newly installed commander of the 51st Support Battalion for Kumbo to reiterate the need for the population to collaborate with forces of law and order, indicating that they are there to secure the entire population. Let's now have the excerpts of the senior divisional officer for Bui division and the new commander of the 51st Support Battalion that was speaking respectively to Akumbo-based correspondent Chris Confon.
We are therefore expecting more collaboration from the population. And at the same time, we are appealing the vigilant group to work hand in hand with our forces of law and order in order to bring peace, in order to maintain peace and order in the entire division of Bui. Division of Bui. The population should not be afraid. The forces of law and order have been sent here to work and protect them, to secure their property. If they see a strange face in a village, in a quarter, they should refer to administrative authority, forces of law and order, in order to catch the man and open investigation. That's the insurance I want to give to our population. We are working to maintain peace and order in the entire division, and you can see yourself that there's crime. I think the population, they have started to understand that the presence of the force of law and order here in Bui, in Kumbo in particular, is to give them more insurance, is to assure them that there is state here, and that the force of law and order are working to preserve their security.
I have to thank the population of Mbui because they are not give themselves for this trouble, for this killing where it's more than the other division. And so that I ask them to continue to collaborate with army, with soldiers, so that we will live together and we will look to the one direction in Congo. And I ask them to not be afraid when they saw the army coming nearly them, make them follow him. Because if you see the army and you run away, that means you are safe. You are reported. You see the army and you run away, that means you are safe. You are reported yourself for something. You have to go and remain with him, do something, speak, and you ask them that whether a stranger enter for the Mbui division, may they come and tell you. You should not go and tell them that a stranger will enter here and there. That's what I ask the population.
Simon Emil Moore, the Senior Divisional Officer for Mbui Division, and Sachin Diodone, the newly installed security official in Mbui Division of the Northwest Region of Cameroon, there speaking to our correspondent in Kumbo. KAM is still to return to Nguti subdivision in Kupe Maningoba of the Southwest region of Cameroon following the gun battle between security forces and some armed civilians in the early hours of this morning. Reports say that Nguti Gendarmerie Brigade was attacked this morning by the armed civilians. The official number of casualties is still awaited, but several persons are said to have sustained injuries. Locals are now living in fear following the security reinforcement in the said locality. Meantime, the Kumebalui, another locality in the Southwest region, precisely situated between Diang and Meme divisions, has also been hit by exchange of gunshots between yesterday and the early hours of this morning. And talking about the security situation in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, that is exactly why there are several Cameroonians now seeking asylum in neighboring Nigeria. The asylum seekers in Nigeria from Cameroon are going to be telling their stories in a special package that is going to be coming up in just few seconds from now. A good number have revealed that they escaped police brutality from Manu, division of the Southwest region of Cameroon, to neighboring Nigeria, as some of the civilians as well as their homes were being attacked. Amongst those seeking refuge in Nigeria are women, minors. The visually aims were being attacked. Amongst those seeking refuge in Nigeria are women, minors, the visually impaired, and even handicapped persons. Let's have the details with Derek Jato, who was in Nigeria recently.
This is just a cross-section of Cameroonian refugees that are here in Amana, south of the southeast of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Over here, most refugees here in Amana cross over from Akoya subdivision. Southern Cameroonian refugees in Nigeria revealed for the first time to Equinox television what really made them to flee from Cameroon for safety in Nigeria.
Initially, us in this area, really, we have not been seeing a aeroplane. Yes. So one day we heard that our president here ordered that all the Beki villages, you will deal with them. Okay, then you will deal with them. Yes. So when we heard that news, not too long, not more than 3 days, helicopter started coming, started passing. And then we said, this news we heard can be true. Then we tried to resist, Some people started running during the helicopter. But some of us who say we want to see. Then the army came in. They came in shooting. They don't ask anything, they just came in shooting. So they killed so many people. While other ran away. For you also? Yes, apart because of some other. They entered Daji first. So that is where the most killing was. At Daji. Then us Aboda will substitute to cross over.
Though the reason boils down to the escalation of the Anglophone crisis has been responsible for their being here. The reason boils down to the escalation of the Anglophone crisis has been responsible for their being here in a foreign land. But each refugee here in Nigeria is with a personal point or two that convince him or her to conclude that it was time to leave everything behind and move for safety.
They have not seen all these type of things since inception. So when they saw the guns and so on, with all army moving all around the whole division of Aqua down, so everybody decided to run.
For instance, this visually impaired 70-year-old Mr. Okange Matthias gave his own reason as to why he left Iyumojok in Cameroon for Amana in Nigeria.
Yeah, between Iyumojok side. I've been on the one,
72-year-old Anthony Ababo from Akwaya subdivision said he wanted to be alive. That is why he fled to Nigeria since October 1, 2017.
First October I come out because I don't feel wrong. So I come over there because of the key people for that way they were come out, so now I been for work up to today. As I've been out for November, so if you know they finished my 6 months while they're outside.
With fear and bad memories of their recent past still haunting them, these Southern Cameroonian refugees in Nigeria say they are having hard times here in this strange land.
For the firewood, same woman, they don't call firewood. Carry them, sell them, because they just carry who they time for 50 naira before we come. We divide them small we chop. I don't go tell you they suffer like me. Come on, I live there. Before this thing attack me bad, they suffer all my family the day. And a day for 4 months, they not chop.
With the number increasing by the day.
They suffer all my family the day. And a day for 4 months, they not chop.
With the number increasing by the day, what they are doing now is prayers to God to keep them alive.
We revisit the story of Monique Kumateke, whose death and her twin babies provoked national and international outcry. That was an incident that happened here in the economic capital, Douala, in a public hospital. The living condition of the parents of the deceased Monique Kumateke has remained very deplorable despite the series of promises made by the government of Cameroon. The government, it should be noted, had promised to take care of the kids that Monique Kumateke left behind, but 2 years on, nothing has been done so far. Innocent Aze visited the residence of Monique Kumateke. He brought back the following report.
March 12 marked exactly 2 years after Monique Kumateke died on the veranda of the Lakentini Hospital in Douala with twins in her womb. Neither her life nor that of the twins could be saved by Monique's younger sister, Agnes, after neglect from some medics. Visiting the residence of the deceased March 12, 2018, nothing has changed despite promises made by government authorities to assist the family left behind.
Personne n'a fait signe de vie. Même les visites, rien, comme ils se sont séparés là.
Monique Kumateke's mother, Saint Annette Plastide, has not relocated. She continues to shelter herself in a dilapidated makeshift house in spite of the fact that administrative authorities paid her a visit a day after the macabre death of her daughter, with mouths filled of gorgeous promises. Not even that support to refurnish her home, with mouths filled of gorgeous promises. Not even that support to refurnish her home was fulfilled.
La même maison, comme j'avais laissé là, comme j'avais trouvé comment elle était.
Worst of it all, the children left behind by Monique Kumateke have never benefited the attention of government authorities.
Le gouvernement n'a rien donné, quelque chose d'aide à l'enfant, aux orphelins, même à la mère de Kumateke.
Supports have, however, been coming from relatives residing abroad and persons of goodwill. After the barren pledges, Monique Kumateker's parents have decided to move on with life while keeping in memory the departure of their daughter from this earth indelible.
And the government delegate to the Limbe City Council, where in the southwest region of Cameroon, has said that security is going to be reinforced in Limbe as the town is going to be hosting the Festival of Arts and Culture. Mutanga Andrew Monjimba was speaking to the press as he officially launched the 2018 edition of the Cultural Jamboree. The festival, as Davison Maimo tells us in the following report, is aimed at portraying the rich cultural heritage of the country. His report.
The importance of our culture and tradition cannot be overemphasized. It is for this reason that the Limbe Festival of Art and Culture, dubbed Limbe Festac, in its 5th edition, has become an annual event and will run from the 7th to the 14th of April this year.
It is only a Limbe Festac that you have Cameroon, and if not Africa, in one cultural event. That is to showcase our living together.
Speaking to the press, the government delegates to Limbe City Council, vision bearer of the Cultural Jamboree, say this year's festivity is unique, pregnant with innovations, as it coincides with the 160th year festivity is unique, pregnant with innovations, as it coincides with the 160th anniversary of the city of Victoria, now Limbe, since it was founded by Alfred Secker, the British missionary.
I'm looking forward for other sponsors in town to join us, because we have to celebrate our thing. It's our culture. We need to revive our culture in all its facets.
Taking place at a time of social unrest within the 2 Anglophone regions of what is known today as the Anglophone crisis, security is not an option.
Security, as far as Festac is concerned, is very, very important. And this is manned by the senior divisional officer of FACO himself. He is the chairperson of the security committee. No stone will be left unturned for the security of the inhabitants of Limbe come Festac.
The Limbe Festival of Art and Culture, Limbe Festac, has as objective to uphold, catapult, and pass on the culture of the 4 cultural zones in Cameroon to the younger generation for prosperity.
And a brief note before we take you to the second part of this newscast, the government has announced the availability of public funds to finance the 2018 senatorial election in Cameroon, especially the campaign. The 9 political parties taking part in the 2018 senatorials have until the 16th of March, that is going to be this Friday, to submit details of their bank accounts for the deposit of the first part of the public funding. A release by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, states that the second part of the public funding would be disbursed after the proclamation of the senatorial election results as stipulated by the law in Cameroon. That is that for this first segment of the news. Up next is talking point stipulated by the law in Cameroon. That is that for this first segment of the news. Up next is talking point. Stay with us. Good evening to you once again, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this second segment of the news. We are going to be talking tonight about the 9th edition of the Cameroon Business Forum, which took place here in the economic capital Douala yesterday under the theme Financing of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises and Developing Cameroonian Industrial Base. It is a public-private dialogue to improve the business climate in the country. Our guest tonight is an economist, Mr. Yoseva Kilian. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Meme, for you to invite me tonight in this edition of your news.
The pleasure is ours as well. As I indicated, the Cameroon Business Forum is a public-private dialogue to improve the business climate in Cameroon, particularly the private sector, which constitute 95% of the Cameroonian economy. Now, the impression that owners of small and medium-sized enterprises have that they actually raised during the forum that took place in the economic capital Douala is that the capital place that they occupy in the Cameroonian society is not taken into consideration by the government of Cameroon. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, I will have something to say. Before I say that, I should note that the economic development and performance in the country is made up of two sectors, the private sectors and the public sector. And of course, the private sector is represented by the government, and the private sector, the GCAM, which is an institution which has been licensed by the government itself as a partner of the private sector, as an interface with whom they can discuss, and sometimes they can even contribute to the blueprint of economic affairs with whom they can discuss, and sometimes they can even contribute to the economic blueprint of this country, even though they don't have the political powers to impose that, because they are not a country. They are simply an organ which has been licensed by the government as a partner. So, but now for them to meet is, and you are talking about the 9th edition, it means they have been meeting, and we'll be talking about what's the particularity of this this edition, as you said, that the private sector. I don't think the problem is not that the private sector is not taken into consideration. And I want to make a critic. They said that 95% of the economic wealth of the country is contributed by the private sector. No, I know we make this assertion because we fall into the error of the quantitative analysis of economic development from gross national product. But qualitatively, when you look at service provider, you will see the two partners, the two sectors,
the public and the private.
You will understand that the government as a regulator, if they don't set the space for economic development, no matter the amounts of investment and capital owned by the private people, they will never realize any growth. I always consider it 50-50 or even tilt the balance to the public sector, because you know the services. That's the government. You will know that you want to create a company, you will have an interface with administrators. They produce services in terms of taxation, in terms of custom duties, all those things. When you are creating a company, you understand that if the production in terms of services, which is measured qualitatively, unfortunately we cannot quantify it, is not done well by the state, you understand that what we are talking about, the contribution in terms of economic growth, is going to be in a problem. But now, if I come to what the government has done, the question with me is that in Cameroon, from the conceptual point of view, we have a lot of things that you can measure done by the government. If we take an example of the 1990 laws creating microfinances, the aim of the government was to lighten the procedure which were owned by the commercial traditional banks, and to lighten the procedure which were owned by the commercial traditional banks, and enable small and medium-sized enterprises to access to credit facilities.
But is this possible?
But it's not possible because access the institutional framework, there is a lot
access to loans is a big problem.
It's a big problem because there are a lot of operational issues that are involved. You know, it doesn't suffice for a government to conceive and announce. There are always accompanying measures, because, you know, it's not those kind of measures. You should look at things like the judicial framework of Cameroon. How do you enhance all this, and the monetary aspect? And then secondly, what the government did was what you call the bank for the small and medium-sized enterprises, which is just 2 to 3 years old, and you find out that that bank is running into bankruptcy. The issue here is the casting. Who are the people who are put at the forefront to handle these government approaches or policies, and which are enhanced, which are put in place in order to support, in terms of regulation, the private sector to enhance production and economic growth.
And that brings to mind the question as to why it's so difficult for some owners of small and medium-sized enterprises to be granted loans in Cameroonian banks, apart from the legal framework that you just raised. Why is it so difficult?
No, the business structure in Cameroon, first of all, with a lot of things that we have discussed in the past, corruptions and so on, some of the companies are not well constituted. And then the management aspect of it. You know, management is still a great problem in Cameroon. We enhance entrepreneurship, but we still have a traditional way of looking things. My name is Kilian, I have what you call Kilian and Sons Enterprise. My problem is I can't roll this company into the stock exchange. I look at it as a family property that I will live from heritage to heritage. The business environment in terms of management look at that as a risk. But when you have a company which is well structured and you have a lot of shareholders, and the devolution of powers in terms of management, financial management is variant. It's not owned by a particular group of people. Even of powers in terms of management, financial management is variant. It's not owned by a particular group of people. It becomes, so if I can tell you a lot of things in terms of management that.
But what about the pressure of giant companies on small and medium-sized enterprises? Some of the owners of SMEs actually complained that their bills are hardly paid on time, and even paid sometimes by some of these giant companies existing in Cameroon. Don't you see that is another big challenge?
Yeah, but it's what you call the rapport de force. It is, again...
And the government is not playing its role as a referee between the giant companies and...
bad payment is the government. When you look at a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises that wound up in several years ago, it's because most of their internal debts were rolled in internal debt. That the government did not pay most of their debts, because a lot of them do contract with the government. Now, but if there is disloyal competition, then it's again a problem of regulation. If I do a business, there are service providers to big companies and they don't pay them. They had a memorandum of understanding, they have signed contract in order to produce those services. Why do them? Then the legal framework has to come in to force those people to pay. Now the point is, again, do they not pay because there is a treasury problem? We understand that it's possible that most of those companies might be mismanaged and a lot of things happen. But what I think is that the most key important things for the small and medium-sized sector to be strong is that we should embrace modern entrepreneurship, whereby the structures, management structure of those companies are well set. In that case, they have policies on how to deal with third parties or other enterprises, and they can also call in the services of legal experts when they have trouble. They can come in to help them. But the thing is that the cost of legal expert in Cameroon is very expensive. This is what maybe, I don't know, the Bar Council of Cameroon should look into it.
Now, looking at government's responsibilities towards small and medium-sized enterprises in Cameroon, we know the government has been promising to finance the small and medium-sized enterprises in Cameroon. We know the government has been promising to finance the sector. The President of the Republic last December 2017 was equally talking about the funds that would be disbursed to finance the private sector in Cameroon. But 3 months on, nothing has so far been done. Don't you think that if the government could think about or ensure that these funds are disbursed to finance the private sector in Cameroon, things could change positively?
I am not an advocate of a socialist approach where money, by taxpayers' money, is pumped to private sector to do so. It can happen, but I'm not an advocate. But the problem is for the government to put in regulations that inside commercial banks in Cameroon that are liquid, to put money, to give money at the disposal of the small and medium-sized enterprises. But when the government, and you already know that we're in a situation of governance that puts a problem of transparency in management of taxpayers' money, how do you think that we are not going to result into the same problem where people are in prison because of embezzlement? I think in terms of management, the government and have shown to us, I mean, sometimes the President of the Republic comes and cries out that the indicator of arresting people is because there is poor governance. I think the government should refrain from intervening directly into and create situation whereby the private sector can auto-regulate itself so that there is loyal competitions among the partners, the corporate business, the giant industries and the small and medium companies. Don't forget that every of these economic actors, they have their target. There's no way the corporate business will go to a small man. And the small and medium-sized, they have their market in Cameroon. Maybe they don't have the means, but the government should not come in a socialist manner to take taxpayers' money and pump to the small and mediums. But you see, but I don't even argue with those who do that, because there's money and pump to the small and mediums. But you see, but I don't even argue with those who do that, because another approach is that the government created what you call the bank for small and medium-sized enterprises. That's another way of taking taxpayers' money and putting at the disposal of this. Why it did not work? Why do you think that they should call people at the counter now and share, distribute money? You think that's the one that is going to work? Of course, the problem of governance will still make some people who are not even owners of small and medium-sized to come and and get this money at the counters.
And of course, before we go, we'll talk about the Economic Partnership Agreement, close to 2 years on, that it went into effect on August 2016 in Cameroon. Tell us, do you think that it's doing the economy of Cameroon good or bad? Because according to some owners of small and medium-sized enterprises, they were talking about the impact, negative one, on the small and medium-sized enterprises in Cameroon, with the stiff competition with some of those foreign businesses that are, some of those foreign companies that have to bring their goods to Cameroon.
From the conceptual point of view, that agreement was a good agreement. It was meant in economic, there's what we call comparative cost, where the country does not have the resources to produce a particular input that it can use for production. They can seek external assistance in what you call international trade to make policies that will incite and promote people to acquire those goods. The problem is not the concept. The concept is good, but the problem is Cameroonian. The thing is that even tax system that has been reduced in Cameroonian, the actors tend to use that for their own benefit and not for the public benefit. What that simply means is that the private sector, because some other people will use it for disloyal competition, are we going to import those products that were owned in Cameroon? That will be the problem of that law, of that agreement. That agreement actually target the sectors where we cannot produce, because the head of state announced what we call industrialization, and it was a mark that there are sectors of machinery that we don't have. So that's what we call industrialization, and it was a mark that there are sectors of machinery that we don't have. So that agreement was put in place to be able to make possible disposals of those instruments and the tools for industrialization that are not produced in Cameroon or not owned by Cameroonians.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Talking Point. We hope to have you some other time again.
Okay, it was a pleasure, and I hope that we were able to give our own opinion on what is going on, and we hope that these forums will continue with the government. But the most important thing is the ordinary Cameroonian. What is the feel on what you call the poverty level of Cameroon? That will be very important in the next years for us.
Thank you so much to our viewers. It was equally a pleasure having with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs until we meet again. Goodbye.